This happened to me 8 years ago today. I remember because I still have the scars to remind me. So, it was a rather chilly February evening in Colorado when all of a sudden the power went out. Now, I stayed in a house with two of my friends as we were renting it from his parents. Anyway, we had the bright idea to go and have a game of beer pong and wait it out. As we drank, I remember one of us opening the garage door, as it was kind of getting hot in there. I had gotten seriously messed up at this point, however, as I proceeded to step outside and noticed the entire block was out of power. As I mentioned before, it was February and it got dark early. Add that to the lack of visibility caused by the outage, and you have a near total darkness scenario. So, here's also where details kind of get sketchy for me. All I remember was drunkenly parading around in the streets with my friends who were watching when suddenly I heard a loud noise, a bright light, and nothing. I had no idea what happened until I awoke in a hospital room with my parents and friends standing over me. I had dislocated my shoulder and broke my leg. Overall was in pretty bad shape. The sad part of the story is, however, whoever hit me didn't even stop. And because my friends were too drunk to recall, they don't know who it was either. It just goes to show you, drink responsibly. So recently in Texas, there have been loads of power outages. This event that happened to me and my friend Anna a while back while working at a convenience store kind of reminded me of it. My friend, who we'll call Anna, worked the registers with me. It had been a hot summer's day in August, and Anna and I were a few minutes from our lunch break. That's when I noticed this creepy middle-aged man approaching Anna's register. He didn't have anything to buy at first, and he suddenly asked for a pack of gum and some cigars. As she rang him up, I overheard him asking her a bunch of weird questions, like, how old was she? How long has she worked there? Does she have a boyfriend? It was at that point I heard Anna sternly tell the man his total and ask how would he be paying, debit or credit? Seemingly ignoring the man's questions, this seemed to anger him as he paid and walked away. A few minutes later, me and Anna were on our break. We were on the aisle where there were frozen dinners, as I forgot to bring a lunch that day. We were discussing that creep from before when suddenly the power went out. There was a large commotion in the store as people began to leave. We too were about to head to the front when suddenly Anna froze. I turned and looked in the direction she was staring at to see what was a dark figure with a hoodie standing at the front of the aisle. My blood went cold, and I grabbed Anna's arm and we bolted down the other side of the aisle. I glanced back to see it was the same man before, as I recognized his voice, as I heard him mutter, "Wait, I just want to talk." I let out a scream, and that's when we ran into another coworker of mine named Derek. Now Derek was a 6 foot tall, heavy-set guy who seemed to catch on to what was happening, as he said to the man, "What the hell are you doing?" The man quickly ran up one of the aisles, and Derek asked if we were okay. Being the truly frightened girls we were at the time, we simply nodded, and Derek escorted us to the front. The store closed that day early, and Anna and I wanted to make a police report on the guy. But judging from the fact the cameras were out when he chased us, we really didn't have anything substantial to give to the police. I quit shortly after this and went to work at a Costco. Anna stayed at the store, and for what I know, she nor I have ever encountered that man again. And honestly, I like to keep it that way. I was in school one day back in 2016 when one of the scariest days of my life occurred. I was 17 at the time, and I'm a guy, by the way. It was an ordinary, boring day at school, and I recall it being the last hour before dismissal. I was in social studies, and our teacher, Mr. Jensen, had just given us our homework and gave us the last 15 minutes to do as we pleased. About 5 minutes after that, I remember the power suddenly going out. It caused a bit of a stir, and Mr. Jensen buzzed the office to no reply. Suddenly, the principal came back on the intercom, and with a bit of fear in his voice, he announced to us we were going on lockdown. Mr. Jensen quickly locked the door and told us to get in the back of the class away from the door. It was eerily quiet, and several students began to cry, and Mr. Jensen asked them to stay quiet. Honestly, at that point, I didn't even understand what they were crying about. But suddenly, the silence was replaced by the doorknob being turned rapidly, followed by a guy screaming and cursing loudly. He began banging on the door and shouting, "I'll kill you! I'll kill you all!" We were all afraid, and I even remember one of my toughest friends named Shabazz, who was pretty much the tough kid in the room, actually looked tense. We all looked tense, like we saw a ghost. And that's when me and a couple of classmates then thought to go to the window and get away. Mr. Jensen actually obliged and helped us out as we were on the first floor. We ran to our parents and buses as police began to arrive. I have no idea who the man was, but I believe he was a disturbed, mentally unhinged individual. The police no doubt apprehended him, and according to reports, he was armed. He actually got in by hopping over a fence, and rumors say he attacked a janitor. And I did see ambulances, so that might actually be credible. I still have nightmares about this whole event though. I just imagine that what would have happened if he actually got in our room? What would he have done to us?